Hi. We planned a meeting today to talk about health at Shipper Supply, and it was unattended for lack of interest. I think that I realized looking back that I should have first provided you the why, the reason why we wanted to have the meeting in the first place. And so I've created this video to give you that answer and to describe a little bit of the problems that I think people today are facing that it would be good for if we were able to deal with. So the why is this. What's good for the employees at Shipper Supply is good for Shipper Supply. I believe firmly that if I don't look out for you, that I've got very little chance that you will look out for me. And it's my job to put my foot first forward. And that's the reason for this meeting. No expectations for you in any way to do anything or to accomplish anything like that. This is strictly a consideration that I'd like you to give as to whether the meeting or having some conversation about our health would be worthwhile for you. So feel free to say no after you see this message and so forth, but let me set it off this way by explaining that I don't think everybody's on your side on this equation. And the situation's changed quite a bit, and so let me go into this little PowerPoint I've got to share with you what I see going on, and hopefully it'll make a difference to you. So this is a chart of deaths per 100,000 Americans. It goes back about my lifetime. So in the 1950s, it was over 950 people died out of every 100,000 every year. So it declined nicely. Particularly in the 70s, we had a very nice decline. And we have to assume that this decline, which was continued, happens because of amazing medical advances. We learned how to cure many types of cancers and things like that. But then at the end, this decade, it started to turn around and go the other direction. The question is this random chance like this increase that we saw back in the 80s? Or is there some specific cause that made this thing turn the wrong way, more people dying instead of less, despite the fact that we've had these amazing medical advances? Well, here are the top killers in the United States based on 2013 data, which is the latest I could find. Heart disease, 611,000 Americans every year. Cancer, the next biggest one, almost as big. The problem is that 6 out of the 7 are lifestyle diseases. In other words, we can avoid these things to a great extent, not always, but to a great extent by how we choose to live our lives. And so despite these medical advances, the question I'm asking is, are our choices killing us? Is there something that we could do? And how would we know if it is our choices? And I think that all we have to do is answer one question. And the question is, are healthcare costs spiraling out of control? And I think that all of us would agree that we see this in the news. This is happening. This can't be happening if, with better medical systems and so forth, we're not causing the problems that the medical industry seeks to address. So let me talk first about the medical community, and I don't want anybody to feel like I'm against doctors or nurses or anybody that tries to help us get back to health when we're sick. This is a very, very nice, good thing. Thank God for the people who do it. What I'm questioning is whether us patients are doing our part. That's what I want to know. And if there is something that we can do better, what is it and how could we do it? Talking some more about the medical community, I see it as 3 major parts: the doctors, the drug companies, and the hospitals that provide the care. More and more people are sick. I think we can agree on that. Otherwise, we wouldn't see a proliferation of hospitals. And we wouldn't have to wait so long if we sprained our ankle in the emergency room. Doctors are dropping out of this system. Obamacare has been a difficulty, I think, for many doctors, particularly older doctors who've been in the industry for a while. And when they drop out, or when they just see a smaller group of their patients for a higher price, like the concierge doctors do, then the result has to be that doctors are overloaded. Fewer doctors to do more work. Drug companies and hospitals want to make more money. So even if the doctors are on your side, which I think they are, then they're too busy. And I'm guessing now that at least there's 2 orders of magnitude between the money that the system makes on curing a disease versus avoiding the disease in the first place. So who's really going to look out for you? And I claim further that the odds are stacked against you. How do people get sick in the first place? A lot of us are trying to take some exercise and so forth. Here's something I got from Joe Dillon, a trainer of Olympic athletes, probably 12 years ago, maybe 15. And he suggested that what drives your health is 75% what you eat, 20% your physical activity as exercise, and nutritional supplements you might take might get you the last 5% of the way there. But 75% of your health is determined by the foods you choose to eat. Now, these days, people are too busy to exercise their way to fitness. Maybe in the old days when we had to slop the hogs and chop down trees and split the wood, we had enough exercise to stay fit. But these days we work in offices, we drive around in cars. These are not good situations for people who have to rely on fitness or exercise rather to maintain their fitness. So fitness mainly relies on what we choose to eat. And who tells us about what we should eat? Food companies, government, diet industry, our family. And the question I'm asking is, should you trust any of them? Let's check on food company advertising. The more you buy processed foods, the more you spend, and the more food companies earn for your convenience. Now, we don't have much choice. We have to have some conveniences these days. We just don't have time to do everything we're doing without having some conveniences. So we swapped some of our money for some more convenience. Now, you may know this, real food around the outside of the grocery, the processed stuff is on the aisles. And should you believe the food companies advertising? Let's think about that. Well, there's a great link right at the bottom of the screen here that you can click on. I encourage you to do it. It's a short interview about this with this Australian actor, Damien Gameau, who ate only advertised healthy foods for 60 days. Now, he was also trying to eat foods that had sugar content about equal to that the average Australian eats. I think it was something like 40 teaspoons of sugar per day. But he didn't eat it in junk food or brownies or candy or something like that. Everybody's gone to the fact that those things are bad for us. What he did was he ate it only in things like low-fat yogurt. It doesn't really strike you as being something that's a source of sugar. But yet the average Australian gets a huge amount of sugar in those things. Now, the video is fantastic. It's an interview with Damien Gameau, and I recommend it to you highly. Click on this video. I'll send this presentation around so that you can get to it. But what it says is that in 2 months, he gained 15 pounds. His weight went up 4 inches. He developed pre-diabetes, heart problems, fatty liver disease after only 18 days of this diet. And he suffered from severe mood and energy swings. Maybe we shouldn't be trusting the food companies' messages. So what else? Well, we have our good old government. And they developed this nice food pyramid. I grew up with this. It was on every box of cereal. And the question was, with population growing dramatically in the United States after World War II, economically, as we projected forward, how could the country afford to feed all its expected people? So they listened to the agricultural lobby because who's listening? Well, the politicians are listening, and they don't necessarily know anything. We just elected them. So they found experts to come in and help them, and they suggested what we could afford, and hence the food pyramid was born. Now, current research shows that cocaine and heroin are less addictive than Oreos. Why? Well, it's the sugar content in the Oreos that makes them so addictive. And people have a growing intolerance as they go on to gluten, dairy, sugar, and notice over here on the food pyramid, I've circled the gluten, the dairy, and the sugar. They make a huge contribution. In fact, they dominate the food pyramid. So is this the right direction for us to be going? Well, what about the diet industry? Can they help us? I mean, obviously, we come to the diet industry because we want to lose some weight or become more fit. $20 billion a year we spend on them. 108 million people on diets. 85% of those are female. And the percentage of women who are dieting has gone down 13% over the last 20 years. Now, there's two reasons for that. It could be either one, more women are at their desired weight, or two, more women have given up on dieting. I'll let you scratch your heads to decide which one you think is the right answer. But my sense is that these different companies that make money on helping people diet would go broke if you were successful and quickly got to your chosen weight and stayed there. Getting to your chosen weight and then yo-yoing back up creates a cycle, which I found this little graphic on the internet. I thought it was pretty nice. There's Valerie Bertinelli. She loses 30 pounds. She eats a bunch of candy bars. She gets fat again, so she goes back and goes to Jenny Craig and loses another 30 pounds and then goes back to the candy bar. So these things are working in our economy both at the same time against us to make a profit cycle. The question is, can we really trust them? Now, your parents, of course, I asked, what do they know? But seriously, what I really want to say is it's not our parents' world anymore. Things have changed since we were kids growing up. And the big thing that's changed is food. Our food has changed. There's GMO corn. There's GMO soybeans. You can't get a soy product that isn't GMO. And there are certain things in our environment in this country that are on the rise. And they start with A's. A for autism. When I was born, about 1 out of 10,000 people had autism. It was an unheard of disease. We heard of it, but nobody knew anybody that had autism. And by the end of this graph, in 2009, it was 1 out of 110. By 2013, it had jumped again to 1 out of 50. So we're talking about in 4 years, the incidence of autism has doubled. You can see the curve. It's looking exponential. What's causing that? Nobody really knows, but I'm going to make a suggestion to you that I think it may have to do, based on what I've read, on food. And I want to make you all aware of this as well. Now, there are allergies. Look at the incidence of allergies just in this century so far. More U.S. children are having food allergies. What about asthma? Well, here's a chart that goes back to the 1920s. It shows a nice pattern of asthma increase. And the fourth A is ADHD. And you can see that it is extraordinarily spiked, and it's happened just, again, this century, in the 21st century. 19,000 or so in 2003, up to 64,000 in 2009. And it's not going down. We all know people who have medication for ADHD, particularly our children. And the question is, why would this be happening? And I got to claim that genetics can't make an explanation. Our genetics don't change that fast. Let's say we had a mutation and it caused the damage to our genetics. We would have to have those children grow up. You haven't had a chance to have the genetic damage in this century and still have children. It can't occur that fast. So it's something environmental. Something else is causing it. So the question is, who can you trust? That's the question I'm asking. Now, here's what I think. This is my bias. I don't know if I'm right here, but I say people are good. That's my observation about life. I trust people more than I trust institutions. People understand win-win. People need to belong, and that's maybe why they understand win-win, right? Because if you're in a tribe of people like Shipper Supply, and you behave in a way that's against the other members of the tribe, you'll be expelled from the tribe. You won't be long as a member for very much longer. And institutions have goals that make them suspect. There are lots of reasons why institutions might have ulterior motives and may not be as trustworthy, even though they're populated by good people. So we have to look out for ourselves. This is my assertion. There's a great video by Dr. Fred Kaufman, K-O-F-M-A-N. Watch part 3 of 3. He talks about in every change, there are 2 vectors. And in every change, those two vectors are the things we can't control and the things we can control. So yes, there are many things stacking the deck against us, but there are still things we can control. So I'm pleading with you to look for those things, to look out for ourselves, look out for yourself. And further, this is going to have a good consequence, because when you look out for yourself, you're going to soon want to look out for others. This is put your oxygen mask on yourself in the airplane when it's going down before you help the person next to you. But people do this naturally. When somebody finds out something good, they share it with somebody else. They get the benefit first for themselves, then they want to pass that benefit on. And that's, again, largely the reason for this presentation. How would we know if we heard a good solution to our fitness problems if we saw it? Here's my little man. He's out there trying to spy it. How would we know? Well, we feel healthy, right? We'd know we felt better. And we might get some other confirmation. For example, the doctor might tell us, oh, your blood work looks so much better. Your triglycerides are down, or your cholesterol's down, or something like that. We could get some other outside indication. You could have a scan and they say, oh, you have no coronary artery plaque whatsoever, completely clean. I love that. It's the best I've ever seen. Those are kinds of confirmations we might have. Now, this is important. It has to also be easier than what we're doing now, because otherwise, why would it be sustainable? I'm not looking for a yo-yo type of a solution. I'm hoping that we can find something that's more of a permanent cure. And it has to be easier than what we do now, because, as I said, we don't have so much extra time in our day. We have to actually gain some time back for us to find the solution to be long-term beneficial. Support's readily available and free, that we have some experts that we can lean back on. I was talking yesterday with a woman who liked the South Beach diet. She had read a book, she liked the book, and she was on the South Beach diet, but she was complaining that she didn't have other people to support her, and when she had things she didn't know or couldn't find out from the book, she didn't really have resources available for her to find those things out. So support would be another benefit. We understand why it works. This is not something that's completely lost on us. We get it. We understand the situation. And once we understand, then we can help each other in our community or in our tribe, and then we can extend it outside our tribe to other people that we care about. And it keeps more money in our pockets. In other words, this is not an expensive solution that we have to give something up financially in order to be able to enjoy. So those are the criteria for a good solution that I came up with. Any solution that you might find, you should measure that solution against these criteria. We'd like to have a presentation, the one like we plan to have today, sometime in the future. You all have to decide that you want to do that. There's no obligation. There's nothing going on with this. There's no other ulterior motive. It's just strictly about helping you be more healthy, if that's something you want. So if you're interested, please see Adam and inquire with him and let him know. There'll be some conversation, I think, about this in the next few days and in the next few weeks. And if you all are ready, or when you're ready, we'll come in and present something to you that maybe you'll find attractive. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you listening.